The Falcon Heavy launch took place, the second ever Falcon Heavy launch took place last Thursday night, around midnight it was. It was, to see on the TV was absolutely breathtaking because they launched one of these rockets last year, the first test launch of it. This was the one that he famously, Elon Musk, launched his red Tesla towards Mars. And it was an amazing story. But it was very much a test launch, and that's why he put his car in it. He didn't put his car in it for any frivolous reason. They had to carry a payload, because you can't launch a rocket with an empty payload chamber, because if you do, the balance is all wrong. So he put his car in it. Why not? If you could do it, do it. I wouldn't mind having his Tesla, but never mind. But that was the test launch. And we think the days of massive heavy launches are not going to be as common as we thought. But on the back of that launch, Arabsat, which is a Saudi Arabian company, asked SpaceX, could they launch their Arab 6 satellite? And they said, yes, we can, but we need to do it on the Falcon Heavy because of the size of this particular satellite. So they launched it on the Falcon Heavy last week. And what is special about this launch? You see rocket launches, and maybe people do get blasé about them, but this is 3 rockets. Imagine 3 pens, if you will. Visualize 3 pens side by side, strapped together. Each has got 9 engines at the bottom of the pencil, or the cylinder. They're strapped together and they're given a huge amount of lift to get this satellite into orbit. The first 2 rockets on the outside of it separated away after their fuel was expended or nearly expended and came back, reverse course, fired a little bit of fuel they had left in their engines and landed successfully at Cape Kennedy a few minutes after launch. That was done before on the first one last year. But this time, the third rocket, the middle segment of this particular core, separated as well. And unlike last time on the test launch, and it crashed, it didn't have enough fuel to land. This one landed on the barge, imaginatively called Of Course I Love You. I Still Love You. It's the name of the barge, Of Course I Still Love You. It landed on that barge successfully in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was visually a most amazing thing to see. If you get the chance, look it up, SpaceX Heavy launch. And of course, that was a secondary aim of the launch. The main aim of the launch, of course, was to get Arabsat 6 into orbit, which they showed you it being pushed into its necessary orbit quite a few minutes later. And it was just one amazing success story. Another great success story. We talk about recycling. We talk about doing things and saving money and all the rest. Well, Elon Musk and his SpaceX team realized rather than launch a rocket and literally throw away the bottom stage of the rocket into the Atlantic Ocean where it just sinks and eventually will rot, they're bringing them back, refuel them, and send them back up into space again. Incredible. And again, it just shows how important or how imaginative the space industry is and how much more we've got to look forward to.
It's interesting you mentioned that a sort of recycling aspect of it, because obviously there is a concern from people that we're launching more and more things into space and filling it up with space junk, as it were.
Oh, that is a huge problem. That is a very big problem. And a few months ago, or weeks ago actually, the Indians fired a missile in space that actually blew up a satellite of their own. And NASA and all the other space agencies were horrified because that put clouds of debris into a low Earth orbit where it could damage other satellites. It was quite low and it will burn up eventually. But you've only got to go again and look on the internet at the images of flecks of paint coming off satellites hitting the window of the space shuttle or the space station and literally not cracking it because the glass or the material is very thick for obvious reasons. But it does cause huge amounts of damage because something travelling at 17,000 miles an hour, which is the minimum it needs to be to stay in orbit, something like that hitting something else can be horrendous. And the problems of space junk is something we've really got to do something about.